Now we're going to take a look at section 7.2, which is dealing with production in the short run. And so we see that production is the process that a firm uses to transform inputs such as labor, capital, raw materials into outputs, which would be the finished good or service that they're going to sell. And if we think about pizza making, the pizzalillo or pizza maker takes flour, water, and yeast in order to make the dough. And then from there, the cook rolls out the dough, brushes on the pizza sauce, and then adds the cheese and the other ingredients in order to make the pizza. The pizzarello then uses a peel or a shovel-like wooden tool to put the pizza in the oven to cook. Once baked, the pizza goes into a box if it's takeout, and a customer pays for the good. What are the inputs or factors of production that make up a pizza? Okay, so what kinds of things go in to make a pizza? We see that it's the natural resources, which is the land and raw materials, which are the ingredients to make the pizza, are raw materials. These are the flour, the yeast, and water for the dough, tomatoes, herbs, and water for the sauce, cheese, and then all of the toppings that go on the top. If the pizza uses a wood-burning oven, then that would include the wood as the raw material. If the establishment uses an oven that uses natural gas, then we would count that as a raw material. Don't forget electricity for lights. If instead of pizza, we're looking at an agricultural product like wheat, we can include the land that the farmer used to grow the crop. Labor, which would be the human effort, which is both physical and mental. The pizzarello is the primary example here of labor. They need to be strong enough to roll out the dough, to insert and retrieve the pizza from the oven. They also have to know how to make the pizza, how long it cooks in the oven, and a myriad of other aspects of pizza making. The business may also have more than one person to work the counter, to take orders, to receive payment, etc. Capital is when economists use capital, they don't mean necessarily financial capital or money, but they mean physical capital, the machines, equipment, and buildings that are used to produce the product. In the case of the pizza, the capital includes the peel, the oven, the building, and any other necessary equipment like the tables and chairs out in the dining room. Technology. Technology refers to the process of producing the product. How does the pizzarello combine ingredients to make the pizza? How hot should the oven be? How long should the pizza cook? What is the best oven to use? Gas or wood burning? Should the restaurant make its own dough, cheese, sauce, toppings, or should they buy them? Those are all dealing with different aspects of technology. And in entrepreneurship uh, involves many decisions and knowledge, even for something as simple as pizza. Who makes those decisions? Ultimately, it's the entrepreneur, which is the person who creates the business, whose ideas then are combined to produce it. So the cost of producing pizza or any other output depends on the cost of labor capital, raw materials, and other inputs that are required, and the price of each input to the entrepreneur. And so now we'll go into a little bit more detail. So the categories of factors of production inputs are the resources that the firm used to produce the products. And so that would include natural resources, which are the land and the raw materials. Also includes labor, capital, technology, entrepreneurship, like we talked about. The production function is the mathematical equation that tells us how much output Q a firm can produce with a given number of inputs. And so we see here the function of these items gives us the output. And so again, natural resources, labor, capital, technology, and entrepreneurship. That's what those letters mean. So the sum of that is the function of that is what gives us the number of outputs. Now we have fixed inputs, which are K, which are factors of production that cannot be easily increased or decreased in a short period of time. And so, for example, in our pizza example, the building would be a fixed input because the restaurant owner signs a lease and is stuck in a building until the lease expires. Fixed inputs define the firm's output capacity, maximum output capacity. Variable inputs are factors of production that the firm can easily increase or decrease in a short amount of time. And again, the pizzarello can order more ingredients with a phone call, so ingredients would be a variable input. The Also the owner could hire a new person to work at the counter, so that make that process more faster. So the shorthand form of production would be the function of L and K give us. So we have all of the fixed inputs and then all of the variable inputs. Now, entrepreneurships, they differentiate between short and long run production. And so short run production is the period of time during which at least some functions of production are fixed. And so, for example, during the period of pizza restaurant lease, the pizza restaurant is operating in a short run because it is limited to using the current building. The owner can't choose to be in either a larger or a smaller building. And in the long run is the period of time of which all factors are variable. Because we know then that once the lease expires for the pizza restaurant, the owner then could decide to move into either a larger or smaller building. We're going to look at an example of short run production, and we're going to look at a specific example of a lumber company. So tree cutting, which is for lumber, with a two-person crisscross saw. And we see a picture there on the screen. So since by definition the equation is fixed in a short run, our equation becomes the following that we see there on the screen. And so Q is the output, which is also called the total product or TP. And since K is fixed in the short run, the amount of output, which are the trees that are cut per day, depends only on the amount of labor that's employed, which is the number of lumberjacks that we have working for us. And so we see then that the marginal product, or MP, is the additional output that we get from adding one additional worker. So it's the change in TP over the change in labor. And we see that. And so the law of diminishing marginal productivity is the general rule that as a firm employs more labor, eventually the amount of additional output declines. And that is characteristic of production in the short run. And that is the reason, let's see. Let's see here. So again, we look at that. Diminishing marginal productivity is very similar to the concept of diminishing marginal utility that we talked about previously in chapter 6 in talking about consumer choice. Both concepts are examples of a more general concept of diminishing marginal returns. And so we'll look a little bit more into why that is. So we see here the chart shows the short run total production for trees and then a marginal product for trees over the number of lumberjacks. So the top chart shows the short run product for trees. As the number of lumberjacks increase, the output also increases until we get to 5 lumberjacks that we have. So then the bottom graph shows that as workers are added, the MP increases at first, but sooner or later, additional workers will have a decrease in marginal product. And so we see here the general curve of total product curve, and we see the general case of marginal product curve.